Greetings and welcome back. It's your host, Gabe Morales. It has no official state nickname. However, Missouri is commonly known as the Show Me State. And in this video, I will show you a little bit about their prisons and gangs operating within the area. The Missouri State Penitentiary was located in Jefferson City, which operated from 1836 to the year 2004. It served as Missouri's primary maximum security institution for many years. Before it closed, it was the oldest operating penal facility west of the Mississippi River. The penitentiary is now a tourist attraction, and guided tours are offered to the public. Today, the Missouri Department of Corrections, also known as MDOC, is the state law enforcement agency that operates prisons within the state. It has its headquarters in Missouri's capital of Jefferson City, and the current director of MDOC is Trevor Foley. MDOC has 21 facilities that operate statewide, including 2 community release centers. It has more than 11,000 employees, about 3/4 who are either certified corrections or probation officers. Prisoners from counties within the state first go to diagnostic institutions. Adult males may either go to the Eastern, the Fulton, or Western reception and diagnostic centers. All incoming female prisoners are sent to the Women's Eastern Reception, Diagnostic, and Correctional Center. I will only talk about higher level facilities in this video. The Jefferson City Correctional Center is a maximum security prison that replaced the old state pen. It houses just under 2,000 prisoners with a staff of 660. The Potosi Correctional Center houses just under 900 inmates as of the year 2020. It is a level 5 maximum security prison for male offenders. The South Central Correctional Center is located in Lucky, Texas County, Missouri, and the facility houses a maximum of 2,500 inmates and opened in June of 2000. In the year 2025, the prison's warden since 2019, Michelle Buckner, ended her employment following allegations of loose security leading to drugs and other contraband being introduced into the prison. There were also 18 deaths at the facility in 2023, 8 of which were by drug overdose. The Southeast Correctional Center is a maximum security prison located in Charleston, Mississippi County, Missouri. It opened in the year 2001 and has a capacity of just under 1,700 inmates. The Chillicothe Correctional Center is the main prison for women. It cost approximately $120 million to build and opened in late 2008. With a capacity of 1,740 female offenders at a maximum security levels, including maximum. On the evening of September 22, 1954, there was a major riot at the Missouri State Penitentiary, which started when 2 inmates faked illness to attract 2 guards to their location. Once these officers arrived, inmates ambushed them and took their keys. The inmates ran down the cell blocks and corridors and released other inmates during the process. During this riot, the Missouri State Highway Patrol and Missouri National Guard, as well as police departments from Jefferson City, St. Louis, and Kansas City, were called in to help quell the riot. When it was all over, 4 inmates had been killed, 29 had been injured, and 1 attempted suicide. 4 guards were seriously hurt, and several buildings were burned, with damages estimated at $5 million. James Earl Ray had a long criminal record and scrapes with the law, including terms in Joliet and Pontiac prisons in Illinois and Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary in Kansas. In 1959, he made an unsuccessful attempt from the Missouri State Pen, but in 1967, he planned another escape, and this time it worked. Reporting to work early at the prison bakery, he snuck into one of the large boxes used to ship loaves of bread and escaped from the prison. Ray was still a fugitive when he later assassinated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at a Memphis, Tennessee motel on April 4, 1968. On October 22, 2003, a murder escape attempt occurred at the state pen, and inmate Toby Viles was murdered by 2 offenders that worked with him in the prison's ice plant. It was found out that the offenders were planning an escape prior to the closure of the penitentiary. From 1938 to 1965, 39 prisoners were executed at the penitentiary's gas chamber. In January 1989, inmate George Tiny Mercer was executed. It was the last execution to take place at the state pen, and the first by means of lethal injection. When the Potosi Correctional Center opened in 1989, the state transferred its 70 death row inmates from the Missouri State Pen to that facility. Missouri's always had its share of outlaws. In my Minnesota DOC video, I mentioned the James Younger gang, who were escaping Missouri law enforcement when they made a disastrous plan to rob a bank up north. There was also Belle Starr, who operated in the state, who was dubbed the Bandit Queen. But in reality, Belle was nothing more than a stock thief, stealing cattle and horses, who served a year in jail for her efforts. Although the glamorous Jean Tierney played her in a 1941 Hollywood biopic, she looked more like Annie Oakley of the Buffalo Bill Show. On a wintry morning in February 1889, two blasts from a shotgun blew her off her thoroughbred horse and ended her life. Her assassin was never identified. Belle was just 2 days shy of her 41st birthday. Charles Pretty Boy Floyd first arrived at the Missouri State Penitentiary in 1925 after pleading guilty to his very first convicted offense, a $12,000 St. Louis payroll robbery. Upon his release in 1929, he continued to wreak havoc all across the Midwest, robbing banks and murdering cold blood with other criminals from that era. By 1933, he was wanted in several states and was known to police and the FBI as the most dangerous man alive. In Missouri alone, he was wanted for at least 3 murders. As far as modern street gangs, the state has many, who are predominantly active in large urban areas, but also in some medium-sized towns. When I did my Kansas Department of Corrections video, I mentioned that many people confuse Kansas City, Kansas with Kansas City, Missouri. And I tried to differentiate between the two, but still got a couple of picks from the Missouri side mixed up with the Kansas side. I will hereby refer to Kansas City, Missouri as KCM. Sheffield, KCM, is a largely Latino area around 12th Street and is said to have some gang activity. The 20s is also known as the Twomp Side, located around Hillside and 24th. Tray Side, aka the Tray, or Tray Wall, or Click Clack, stands for the 30 blocks. 4 block refers to the 40 blocks of KCM and is home to the East Side 4 Tray Crips, but also supposedly had some Bloods. Fogtown, or 5-1 Gangstas, is a notorious neighborhood around 51st Street that has been rivals with many other hoods over the years. It produced the rapper Anthony Fat Tone Watkins, who was a founding member of the OGs and later pursued a solo career, but died on May 23, 2005. The 57th Street Road Dog Villains was made famous by the rapper Tech Nine, and just below him is said to be a faction of the Rolling 60s Crips. Swampside is an area located in the south, mainly from 68th Street down to 75th, and I'm sure there are a lot more gangs in KCM. Please post them in the comment section, but as a reminder, be respectful. No net banging. St. Louis, sometimes called St. Lulu, is considered to be one of the highest crime areas in the U.S., and actually only has a population of just over 250,000 people. It was much larger at one time, but is now considered to be only the 80th largest city in the country. It has been reduced in population over the years, with many older homes and housing projects being bulldozed, often leaving deep holes in the map with many vacant lots. There are many neglected and violent neighborhoods like Walnut Park, located on the west side. The St. Louis Cardinal colors are red, so many of the early gangs claim that color, and Bloods are Pyrus, like Crenshaw Mafia or other Damu sets. I will only have time to talk about some of the larger St. Louis gangs in this video. The TV show Gangland ran an episode of the Boys of Destruction, or BOD, who were said to have one of the most organized gangs in the city that were very active during the 1970s through 80s. Their hood was mainly along Martin Luther King Drive, which historically served as the dividing line between them and their fiercest rivals, the Horseshoe Posse. Downtown's Cochrane Housing Project off of 8th Street has an 8th Street gang who are said to be a faction of the 1-9 Long Beach Crips. The L is an area on the north side's Jeff Vanderloo, or JVL, which also means just vacant lots, after many structures were torn down, as I stated previously. It was originally said to have been dominated by Bloods, but later had an influence of East Coast and Kitchen Crips. The younger generation calls their hood the Torture Zone. The 4 is named after a bunch of streets in the 4,000 blocks, and are said to have an influence from 8 trade gangster Crips in rolling 60s. I understand there were some gangster disciples in the area during the 1980s, before Bloods and Crips took over much of St. Louis. The Ville was originally named after 42nd Ville, or the 4200 block, until the 4400 section became more active and they added 442. Before East Coast Crips and Christian Crips came in, the Ville was said to be home to many Bloods and Hoovers. This seems to be common in St. Louis, as gangs keep changing their name in search of their own identity, or as the result of beefs and alliances with other groups. The Tracks is located in the Fountain Park neighborhood on the west side. that started out as being a middle-class black community during the 1950s and 60s, but by the 1970s it changed. Originally they ran Bloods, but today they are mostly East Coast Crips along with some Kitchen Crips. The Scan is mostly located in the Academy neighborhood. Their original affiliations were a mix of Rolling 60s Crips and Blood/Pyrus, but their color for the hood has been green for many years now. The West Side 6400 Boston area is a suburb just west of St. Louis and is said to be affiliated with the Nine Deuce Inglewood family gangster bloods. They are broken into various subsets like Dead End, Hilltop, Salsa Gang, Valle Boys, 6300, etc. In the year 2024, 15 members or associates of a South St. Louis gang called the 5-5 Boys were convicted and sentenced for drugs, guns, and other crimes. Springfield, Missouri has had its own share of gang problems. We're a good marketplace for drugs, and it seems like drugs and guns go hand in hand, Sheriff Jim Arnett said. Street gangs and other types of gangs who have figured out it's a good marketplace, referring to Springfield. In 2024, Jarlene Carlin Williams, who is part of a local rap group and leader of a gang known as FTO, was sentenced in federal court for illegally possessing firearms, some which have been linked to multiple shootings. Understand there are also some Grape Street Crips that came in during the crack cocaine epidemic of the 1980s through 90s, as well as some Rolling 40s Crips. I am told there's still some Hoovers in the state, but they never adopted the criminal independent set identity like they did in most of LA, and still call themselves Crips. As far as Bloods and Pyrus, there were some Brims, Bounty Hunters, Mob Pyrus, Treetop Pyrus, Rolling 20s, Outlaws, Bishops, Bloodstone Villains, and Swan Bloods. There have been some gangster disciples out of Chicago, mostly the Insane faction. But I was told there are only a few vice lords left in the state. I heard that the Latin Kings are also no longer active, or if they're still there, are very few in number or have aged out. Serenos 13, Matasalva, Truchov 13, and Florencia 13 are active in the state, and every once in a while a Norteño can be spotted. In my Iowa video, I mentioned the presence of Serenos in the state, and somebody asked if Norteños were active there too. I'm sure there are, as Norteños can be found in many places outside of Northern California. They are just in much smaller numbers than Serenos. There have been some past Aryan Brotherhood members with connections to Missouri. I believe that there was a Kevin Pope, BOP number 19924-175, who was born in 1946, that was validated by the feds when he was at Leavenworth as being Brand, as well as Doyle DJ Jones, BOP number 12522-116, with a DOB of 1950, ID'd at Leavenworth around the same time in the late 1970s. While I was doing some research on the state, I found a recent mentioning of a Jimmy Jack Pinkley, BOP number 69801-509, current age 48, being named in a local case as being AB. But I'm not sure if that is the federal faction that is recognized by California or another one of the many security threat groups having Aryan Brotherhood in their name that operate in other states. The Anti-Defamation League first encountered the Sacred Separatist group in the year 2005, and it states that it has grown considerably in recent years. It originated in the Western Missouri Correctional Center. I understand there's another security threat group in MDOC called Family Values, which is a smaller gang, who some state that they are not white supremacists, but they do often use symbols such as swastikas, SS bolts, the numbers 14 and 88. A number of these members live around St. Louis or Springfield, Missouri. There is also the Joplin and Southwest Honkies. On January 26, 2015, a member of the Southwest Honkies, Joshua Lee Hoggood, shot a Springfield police officer in the head, which left him with career-ending injuries. This was actually the second officer shooting in Springfield tied back to the gang. A couple of years earlier, in 2013, Southwest Honkies member Martin Potts wounded another officer during a shootout before officers fatally shot him. There are some Aryan Circle members operating within the state. 4 members of the AC were charged with aggravated assault for a 2013 attack, which investigators stated was meant to serve as a warning to other members of the gang. In this case, there was a Thomas B. Wilson of Villa Ridge, a Daniel B. Jerome of Wentzville, a Thomas Tisher of St. Louis, and a Dustin M. Haney of Herman, who were all indicted. There are also some Midwest Peckerwoods, as well as Patriot Front and Minutemen, which are right-wing groups that operate within the state. As far as outlaw motorcycle gangs, which again, they insist they're motorcycle clubs, and do not like law enforcement categorizing them as 1% outlaws. The outlaws and Mongols are present in the state and can get along, as you see here. There are the Galloping Goose MC, whose leader and several members were indicted in 2024 by a federal grand jury in the roles for criminal acts. There are also the Vagos, who have beefed in the past with the Galloping Goose, and the Bandidos has a chapter in KCM as well as a support club. In 2014, approximately 2,000 Bandidos and supporters descended upon the Green Valley area of the state, which caused a lot of concern by law enforcement. The Hells Angels, aka the Big Red Machine, aka the Big 8-1, has a Nomads chapter in Springfield, which is considered to be part of the Ozarks region, and they'll sometimes wear a Dixie front rocker. The Pagans have expanded into the state as part of their Blue Wave campaign and have been very aggressive. In the summer of 2024, 18 members and associates of the Pagans were indicted by a federal grand jury for a series of armed assaults against rivals. Once again, I'd like to give a shout out to the Midwest Gang Investigators Association, who has a chapter in the state to help keep people safe. As many of you know, I consider myself to be a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ, but I don't always take the Old Hebrew Testament nor the New Testament literally. Personally, I think there are a lot of parables in the Bible. Now, I won't tell you how to believe or what to believe. Even if you are atheist, you probably have some kind of belief system. I think we all ought to have a belief system. Otherwise, we won't know what is what or what direction to go. We'd be like a ship in the ocean without a sail or rudder, to avoid the treacherous seas and dangerous rocks. I have noticed that some people often get more and more religious and also more dogmatic, more self-righteous as they get older. It is my belief that all religions and political parties can get fanatical if you let them and blindly follow them or their leaders without question. I am more spiritual than religious. To me, spirituality is not about escaping our problems or the world. It is about seeing the world with clear eyes and further developing human understanding, tolerance, and compassion. So my main advice to you today, no matter what your belief system is to take care of your mind, body, and soul, your spirit. Otherwise, it is like you're sitting on a three-legged stool without a leg or two and will very likely fall over. And with that, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians.